At the big stories of the day, it's time for a newspaper review. If it's a Friday, then you know Marcus Olang and Nduta Waweru will be with us to look at the big stories as we jump into the weekend. Let's look at the front pages of each of the dailies first. Start off with your People Dailies front page. Alarm as more police officers turn to crime. Number of law enforcers accused of criminal activities, including murder, armed robbery, increasing. But security chiefs say situation under control. Also on the front page, state bounds to pressure and lifts SGR order on cargo. Those are the big stories in your copy of the People Daily. Front page of the Daily Nation, how companies hide in havens to avoid tax. Some companies that have bagged hefty government contracts and raked in billions of shillings in profits are among those whose owners manipulate the law and use holding companies offshore to cart away all their earnings. So they're making lots of money right here from the same government that they wouldn't want to pay back what's due to them. And the Daily Nation exposes some of those firms and how they're doing that. Some of those corporate structures just leaves you in a dizzy. You're wondering where does it go from here, which company owns what, the details of that in your Daily Nation. Front page of the Standard, bank fight to get back 1 billion shilling from Ruto Hotel. Death row, court enjoins KCB in ownership dispute with the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority over land on which Western Hotel sits. In the year 2014, he owed KCB 350 million Kenya shillings. It has since accrued interest on that, and that's why they've been enjoined on this particular dispute. And it's the front page of your Standard. Front page of the Star, KRA freezes accounts of 11 universities. Among the affected institutions are UON, KU, JKUAT, Multimedia University, and Mote University as well. Taxman takes radical move to recover 9.7 billion shillings in tax arrears from these respective institutions right there. You can get more details of that in the Star. And finally, front page of the Business Daily, SportPesa billionaires take hit from closure. Betting company says it is finally bowing out after long-running battle with KRA. Listing the owners there and the percentage of shares they have as far as SportPesa is concerned, and the hit they've taken in terms of them closing shop right here. Those are the details that you can get, of course, on each of the front pages of the dailies this morning. You can get more details therein. Let's look at some of the stories a bit deeper. Start off with the front page of the PD. Alarm as more police officers turn to crime. Security chief says its situation is under control. He actually said 99% of them are good. It's the 1% that are rotten, and they're going to deal with that right now. Nduta, let me start with you, because we've seen a case where, and they're still getting more suspects as far as the Nairobi West Heist was concerned. 70 million shillings robbed. And you could see they had actually planned this out. You know, different units planning how they'll get this money and cut it off. We have traffic police officers who actually asked for a bribe from the IG, Mutiambai, not knowing that it was him, and getting all of them fired. Are they trying to underplay the fact that it's really more than 1% that what you're looking at in terms of the force and what they need to do?
I have no idea, but statistics is basically against them at the moment. Because as much as you say, oh, you know, 100 apples are fine, it's just one tiny apple. Right. That tiny apple always, it will rot, it will spread to the others, and then it will be a whole different thing. But they keep saying that the police service reforms are still undergoing. And these are part of the things that they are trying to figure out, making sure that the issues within the police system are fixed. But how fast can they do that? And the thing that this thing keep maintaining is that nobody can hide a crime very well except a policeman. Right. Because they know how the system works. They know all the things they need to do. They know how to cover their tracks. So eventually, being found out is usually by an accident. So if they're the ones who know how to manage all these things, getting them to actually, and confirming that these are the statistics of the police in crime, is very difficult. Right, right. So we have a big problem right there. It is a big problem.
As you say that, the boss is talking about the fact that in the deputy IG saying that, okay, fine, some of us have some rotten elements, so to speak, but it's a very small number and we have it under control. Do you believe that?
I believe they're making efforts to control the situation. As to whether they actually have it under control, that's a whole other thing altogether. Because this is how I see the situation. Historically, up until this very day, at least once every, say, 4 months, we see a headline about how there's a plan to improve either police living situation, salaries, and all of these things. These are people who have given their life. Now, you know how in Africa we say we have many moms. So one of my moms is a former police officer. And I've seen the reality of living in such a situation where you're sharing one room with others. And until such fundamental issues are addressed, where you're going back home to a tin can where you're sharing a room with other families, you're wondering how to make fees for the next term, and then the following morning you're expected to offer VIP protection to someone who you see in the headlines stealing your many millions. At some point you'll come to ask yourself, okay, why can't I also not live this life?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So until we address a wider systemic issue, we all are after one thing: a level of comfort in our lives. If we can offer that to the vast majority of us as Kenyans, as a people, a lot of these issues will then start to wane.
Right.
Yes.
So the more the reforms are effected, the less we'll see of what we are seeing.
Yes.
Yeah. And Jeff, also, there's a statement here that the police are also human. That is a very profound statement.
Yes.
Right.
Because if you're just looking at them as human when they make a mistake, why don't you look at them as human when they're actually doing their jobs?
In the day-to-day.
Yes, in their day-to-day. Make sure they have housing, as he has said. Make sure they're also protected. Make sure that they get all the basics that any other person doing any other duty in this country should get. So that if you're saying they're human in one way, they should be human all across
the board.
Yeah, you don't just decide to pick one potato today and say the other one can go to. You know, those are the things that should be taken care of.
And of course, that makes the front page of the People Daily. Because of time, we'll have to swiftly move it along to the spice. Pull out, that's page 22 of your People Daily. Socialites changing fortunes. That's what we're talking about this morning. Chebet Korir looks at how life has changed for the once popular socialites who mostly made a name for themselves and lived large because of their looks and social media following. Getting to a space where now, Marcus, your nephew, your niece might come and tell you that she wants to grow up and, you know, do what Huda does or do what Vanessa Chettle does. Are we at a space and time where you'll tell her, okay, fine, this is what you need to do? Because right now, in terms of socialites, the overall meaning, you go to, you're in social events, you're there to be entertained and you know, entertain as well. But it's also talking a different derogatory meaning in Kenya. When you're told you're a socialite, it's not exactly a compliment when somebody says that. But you can see when you look at social media, the following that they're getting, the endorsements that they're getting, and you can see other girls who want to get into this space, who doesn't mind, you know, traveling business class wherever they go in the world. So how do you explain that to your niece? I want to be like Huda.
I will not lie. This is something that has been, I am of two minds on it. This I make very, very open. I think through it, and either way I get to a certain conclusion. And this is a conclusion I arrive at, that end of the day, have I hurt someone fundamentally? Have I caused them pain? Have I ended someone's life? Have I done something to diminish another person's worth as a human being? If the answer to that is no, do you
proceed?
Yes. Yes. That is what I have arrived at.
Right. So he's like, okay, fine, as long as no one is being harmed, go and live your dream, sister, brother. What about you, Nduta? Because they're gaining more fame, you know, whether we like it or not. And the more you try and, you know, just taint what they're doing, the more they shine. And you can see that right now.
I think I'll just agree with Marcus. If it doesn't hurt anyone in any fundamental way, then you're good to go.
Live and let live.
Live and let live. But also it comes with a lot of, women already have a lot of issues. They face a lot of problems. They are told they are not doing good enough. When you're doing something positive, you're told, well, you're using it to do something or the other. Like there is always, everybody is trying to always find, and then what? Even when the situation is just as basic as it is. I am on TV, I am doing this to get this money to feed my family and maybe start a business. If I'm using being a socialite as a stepping stone, then what is the problem? Because as you look at all of these women, all of them used being the situation of being a socialite to improve one way or another. They might have hurt people along the way, but sometimes there are things that are unavoidable. But the fundamental thing, as Marcus has said, what is the end plan? Have you hurt somebody along the way to the point of denying them their basic rights?
There's something that you said that has just triggered a thought as well. You know, we also live in a world where, whether we want to admit it or not, social currency is currency. And I will not fault anyone for using their social currency to further their good.
Right.
Again, is this someone who is, I go back to our front pages every other day, is this someone who is stealing billions of my taxes? No. Are they hurting someone fundamentally? No. But are they using whatever currency they have to further their own growth and perhaps the growth of others? Yes. If you're not hurting anyone, please proceed.
Fantastic stuff. So go out there and live your dream. If it's social currency that you're using to move about, it's just as valid as any other currency. So play your cards right there. Quickly to the Daily Nation. We won't look at this tax headline because it's a Friday. Let's talk about some good news as well. I know. I could see that. So I had to cut it. Yeah.
Let me tell you a thing. We were ready.
I could see you're about to pounce on the table. Hey. Let's bring some good vibes. Yes. Return of the Safari Rally. It's been 18 years. We've been waiting for this. It's finally back. I mean, there's a whole generation, somebody who was born and has grown up and doesn't hear for what's this thing you guys talk about.
And it used to happen over Easter.
They don't have an ID card.
And then they just, my dad used to wake us up early in the morning, 3 a.m. It used to pass.
It was family tradition.
Yes, 3 a.m. You just know, dad is almost waking us up to just go stand outside. It is dark as night. But you'll have to stand there and just wait to see the Safari Rally. You're just waiting for it. Right. So I'm very excited that it's back. It will be in July, but well, we'll make it work.
Yeah, we will. It's one of those things that feels so fundamentally Kenyan. And I do realize that there is, as you say, there is an 18-year generation that has no idea why some of us are excited.
They're hearing you talking about this, they're like,
so it's cars that are moving quickly in dust. You want to stand in dust to watch cars? Yes, I do want to stand in the dust. Yes, and I will. With my child as well. To teach them about this culture, I will do it.
Right. Yes, so definitely a good thing right there. Very many people excited. Rally drivers as well now getting their shine back in there. And, you know, because we had all those heroes we talk about. You know, you wonder why the Njiru's today, you know, Joginda Singh came and went, and you're still like, that guy could drive a car, the Ian Duncan. So, great space for them to come back and, of course, sure they haven't. For all those people who are now getting into that space, well, we're back officially in the World Rally Circuit, so that's good news right there. We move on to the Standard. In the Standard, of course, on the front page, talking about Ruto and the debt that he has with KCB being enjoined in that particular suit. In the Pulse magazine, however, they're taking a different tone. This time around, it's all about behind the scene because we all think that it's glam and glitz, the lights, camera, action, fun times. But on the ground, as they say, vitu ni different. Yes, grim glam, the video vixen world, seen as morally loose by society and objectified as little more than props by artists and directors who also ask for sexual favors. Some of these girls talked to Felix Kavia about the exploitative world that reels in when the cameras are not rolling. So on camera, looks all good. They don't know what you had to do probably to get the part. What happens once the camera, I mean the director says cut. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
You know, it's a whole different life there, and they're going into details how some of these artists, you might see them and they might be your friends and heroes, but they're really bad characters out there. How do we standardize this? Because it's a profession like any other. People make money from this, and there's some people who just want to go there, do their job and go back home. We don't have to fraternize. Is there a way of actually just streamlining this? Because you're in that particular space in one form or another. How do we stop this so that if I'm a girl who just wants to go there and give a service and go back home, I can do that?
This, for me, will become something that is a call to challenge the other men within the industry. Because it will be very easy for me to say, oh, no, call them out. But ultimately, I am in a position where I recognize that I have in many situations more power than you would in very many situations. And in such a situation, unfortunately, the vast majority of the power brokers are men. Therefore, if there's someone coming up within this particular industry, within the video world, then it would be very hard for me to say, oh no, just call it. Would be very presumptive of me to say that. So then my challenge then becomes the men within this industry. If I am your friend, I know you're doing this. I know you're hurting someone. I know you're hurting, you're taking advantage of your position of power as someone else is trying to make the best out of whatever situation that they have. Then it is for me to call you out on it and tell you, listen, Jeff, at this particular point, you are, I was going to use a different word there, but...
Thank you for not.
Yes. But you're messing up. And you need to choose better and be better. And it's for, ultimately, I oftentimes bring it back to us as men. We need to start calling each other out, because if we leave it upon the women within the industry to call each other out, we've seen cases of people being quote unquote blacklisted because of speaking out. And they are blacklisted precisely because, again, the power brokers are us.
Right. And we've seen it from an international level, you know, Me Too, Harvey Weinstein,
Yes,
and the fact that so many people knew what was going on,
Kelly.
but would just R. Kelly and just let it slide. And you can see this now from, you know, a countrywide level, an industry level right here in Kenya. Is it the silence of the people who know that's the biggest problem?
Yes,
like Marcus is saying, we know that this guy is usually dodgy, but it's him, that's what he does.
Also, what Marcus mentioned before while we were talking about the spread in spice, that there is something called social currency. A lot of these guys have social currency.
Right.
You can imagine,
The perpetrators of
yes,
this.
the perpetrators of this have a lot of social currency. They're the ones who come up to the media. They're the ones who connect people. They're the ones who hold the network together. So people sit there and wonder, if I say Jeff is not doing good things, and Jeff is the one who will give me the next check, am I not also messing up my own bank account, I mean? So you can imagine the kinds of, and even not about, it's not even basic about the money. There is also the issue of, if I mess up Jeff, chances are that he will not link me up to Marcus, and Marcus has a project coming up that I can benefit from. So a lot of this is the social currency, the clout that these videographers, these artists, and it's artists. You're the ones who are on the screens, you're the ones who do all these things. You hear that you're opening, you're curtain raising for a big celeb. So chances are that if I come and do a video dance or even show up on your concert, I'll be able to link with a big celeb that is coming. And they use that. There is even, they explain here that they tell people, we'll get you exposure. Since I'm the main person, they tell me, oh, I'll not pay you 20,000 as the standard, I'll pay you about 15, and then the 5,000 is in exposure form. So you see, it's a desperate situation in this country. The economy right now, how many people are being kicked out of jobs? How many people are not getting opportunities to advance themselves? How are you sitting on the same job for 10 years on the same salary? You know, things are hard. And these girls are the ones who are trying to make things better. We've talked about all these new entertainers who are coming on board. And the issue, as Marcus has said, is having the men in the group talk about it. So if I see you're mess, that's why R. Kelly is now coming out in 2018, 2019. He's been messing up. He's been doing all this, sexually assaulting girls since forever. But it took a group of women and the evidence. But can you imagine if the group of men at that particular point in time got up and said, Kelly, you're not doing the right thing. You're actually fundamentally hurting people. Things would have been different. But everybody has, it's a whole system, and that system needs to be dismantled so that people can actually enjoy their rights. Yeah, basically.
Absolutely, and of course that's a very serious issue right there. So it's all about the silence that's actually perpetuating this vice, and you can get more details of that in your standard. Quickly, we look at the Business Daily, not with this headline, but a different angle. SportPesa billionaires take hit from closure. Let's not talk about the billionaires, because I think they'll be good.
They'll be
I think they'll be fine with this closure.
I mean,
it's dented the business, but they'll survive. Let's talk about what we've seen. Some videos going around. We saw a video online of the SportPesa management telling the staff that this is untenable. We can't do this. We're closing shop. Bet in Kenya also gave a press statement last week that they were closing shop as well. That in total, roughly almost 1,000 employees losing jobs, 1,000 families in that particular respect. As we talk about this, and of course people saying that this is a vice, our youth are addicted to this, was this really the way to treat these particular players in terms of the regulation issues, their taxes issues, Marcus? Because yes, on one hand we're saying we have youth that are getting addicted to this particular issue, but also there were some people who are earning money, you know, working in this particular farm. Was this the way to go, you feel?
No, I don't think it was the way to go. I think as a country, as policymakers, as a society, we have a very warped way of dealing with issues where we either go, yeah, it's good, or no, ban it altogether. Yet, life is usually on a spectrum of different colors. So when, because this sport pesa and this betting and betting conversation, that was, yeah, okay. This entire betting conversation is one where we've been talking about it as a pure, yeah, it's good, or no, it's bad. Yet, we've had an opportunity ever since all this began to actually educate people on what to do and when to identify when perhaps things are going wrong. I'll bring this, let me make it a bit more practical. Our education system, at what point are we taught about financial management?
What?
Ever.
What?
Even when you're doing, I did BCom. No, I was taught how to manage someone else's books.
Not yours.
Not my own. We are hardly ever taught how to, the fundamentals of life. And this is something that could be forestalled. It could be prevented by simply starting from the very beginning and telling people, listen, you have 1,000 bob on the table. Great. How do you use that 1,000 bob wisely? How do you then portion this 1,000 bob in such a manner that you're covering your basics, yes. You're also, because each and every one of us needs a release, needs an outlet, you're also making sure that you have an outlet in life, and you're also making sure that you have a way to reinvest, which ultimately a lot of people looked at betting as. One, I already have my outlet in terms of watching football or watching whatever matches it is that I'm watching, but at the same time, I have the opportunity, because whether we want to admit it or not, this is how a lot of us are looking at it. We have the opportunity to then reinvest. And the joke is, yes, we use it as but it is true, because not many of us have the luxury of investing in the stocks.
So this is their form of investment?
This is their form of investment. It is the same game in different terms.
Nduta, I'll bring you in on this very quickly, even because we are out of time. What do you feel about them saying, you know what, we can't deal, we can't manage, we'll close shop, thanks? As
Marcus has said, grayscale. We have, life is a picture of different things. So if you just decide to have it's either one way or the other, then it's a lot of issues that are coming up. Because apart from the 400 or even 1,000 from both companies that have lost their jobs, there is also the question of what exactly is this thing that is pushing people to get into betting as a way of life. Because people are trying to find money, people are trying to find a way of living. And if I can turn my 20 shillings to 100 shillings, then to improve just how I live, and then reinvest that 100 shillings to get 150, there is something there's a lot of things that is being said by this particular thing. So I don't think banning or ending up with the sports pesa and betting leaving the economic system as a solution. There could be much better. And from the fundamental point is, what is this thing that the youth are missing
that they're looking
looking for it in betting? Because if you're not addressing things like unemployment, if you're not addressing basic things like how do I make my money work for me as a poor person, as a farmer, people have stopped farming to go to betting. Why? That is the question that people should ask before they actually just ban things.
We'll have to leave it at that particular point in time. Marcus, Nduta, thank you so much.
We should have more time.
This morning. I know. I realized that one was quite enough that we touched. Thank you so much for coming through and sharing your views on the news this morning.